All right, let's get right into it. When you think of the map of India, you probably have a pretty clear image in your head. But the truth is, what's happening on its northern border is one of the most complicated geopolitical situations on the entire planet.
So this is the map you'll see everywhere in India, in schools, in government buildings, and it shows the whole former princely state of Jammu and Kashmir as a solid, integral part of the country. Looks pretty straightforward, right? A clear, simple border. Well, that's where things get complicated, because the map you see on paper doesn't really match the reality on the ground. The question of who is actually in charge of all this land, well, that's a whole different story.
The fact is, India currently administers about 60% of the territory it claims. That other 40%, it's divided between two of its nuclear-armed neighbors. Roughly 25% is administered by Pakistan, and the other 15% or so is run by China. Okay, so to really get a handle on this, we need to break this divided land down into its different pieces. Let's take a closer look at exactly who controls what. This table really lays it all out. You've got Pakistan controlling what it calls Azad Kashmir, and the huge region of Gilgit-Baltistan. That happened right after the First War back in 1947. Then you have China, which took control of Aksai Chin during the Sino-Indian War in '62. And just a year later, Pakistan actually handed over the Shaksgam Valley to China, really cementing their alliance. And we are not talking about some small sliver of land here. The total area outside of India's direct control is massive, over 128,000 square kilometers. Just to give you a sense of scale, that's about the size of the entire Indian state of Tamil Nadu. It's a huge piece of territory. So, how did we get here? This map wasn't just redrawn in a day. The lines you see now are carved out by decades of war and some really high-stakes political games. To understand what's happening today, you've got to look at the past. It all really kicks off in 1947. The local ruler decides to join India, and that immediately sparks the first war with Pakistan. Then, the conflict with China in 1962 opens up a whole new front. Pakistan giving away the Shaksgam Valley just added another layer of complexity, and of course, the Kargil War in 1999 was a stark reminder of just how explosive this region still is. Okay, so you might be wondering, why all this fuss? Why is this remote, high-altitude, and pretty sparsely populated area so important to three global powers? The answer? It's all about strategy. It's incredibly important. You see, for thousands of years, this place wasn't some remote backwater. It was the absolute heart of the most important trade network in the world, the Silk Road. Think of it as the superhighway for goods, cultures, and ideas, connecting all the great civilizations. And that legacy, that need for connectivity is just as crucial today. Look at this. Without that direct land access through Gilgit-Baltistan, India's trade with the resource-rich countries in Central Asia is only about $2 billion. China, on the other hand, which has direct access, does 50 times that, $100 billion. This situation forces India into finding much longer, more complicated routes, like the Chabahar port in Iran. And get this, China isn't just using the old routes, it's building a brand new one. CPEC is this absolutely massive $62 billion project. We're talking roads, railways, pipelines, slicing right through Gilgit-Baltistan to connect western China to the sea. It physically cements both Pakistan's and China's strategic interests in the region for the long haul. And it's not just about trade. This region is an absolute treasure trove of natural resources. The glaciers in Gilgit-Baltistan, they're the source for 70% of the water in the Indus River, which is literally Pakistan's lifeline. The area is packed with minerals like gold and gemstones, and Aksai Chin has huge reserves of zinc, a material that's absolutely critical for making semiconductors, the brains behind all our technology.
Okay, so beyond the maps and the money, there's the human element, which makes finding any kind of easy solution even harder. We heard the term the Kashmiri people a lot, but the reality is there is no single unified group in this huge diverse territory.
Just look at this breakdown. It's incredibly diverse. The Sunni Muslims in the Kashmir Valley have a very different culture from the Hindu Dogras in Jammu. The folks in Pakistan-administered Kashmir, they're mostly Potawari speakers, totally distinct from the Kashmiris. And Gilgit-Baltistan is different again, home to Shia and Ismaili Muslims with cultural links to Tibet and Ladakh. It's a true mosaic of people. So, you take this deep, complicated history, the massive strategic stakes, and this complex human landscape, and you have to ask, what's next? What does the future look like? Realistically, it seems to boil down to three possible paths. So here they are. Option 1, diplomacy. Basically, everyone agrees to make the current lines of control permanent international borders. Option 2, all-out war, a military campaign to try and reclaim the territory, and Option 3, a much longer game of soft power and influence.
Let's just think about that military option for a second. For India, this would be anything but simple. Because of that really tight alliance between Pakistan and China, any major conflict would almost certainly mean fighting a war on two fronts at the same time.
Now, let's be clear. India's military is incredibly powerful and modern, but taking on the combined forces of Pakistan and China, that is a huge challenge. Together, they just have a significant advantage in terms of sheer numbers of personnel, budget, and military hardware.
And then you have the ultimate unthinkable cost. A study by Rutgers University actually estimated that a nuclear war between just India and Pakistan could lead to as many as 120 million casualties, both direct and indirect. That number is it's chilling. It makes the cost of war almost impossible to even comprehend.
So that brings us to the final path, soft power. The idea here isn't to conquer territory with tanks, but to win people over. This comparison is pretty telling. Indian-administered Jammu and Kashmir has a higher human development index, and it's pulling in billions in new investment. Meanwhile, in areas run by Pakistan, there are growing complaints from locals who feel they aren't seeing the benefits from big projects like CPEC, and that their resources are just being taken. The strategy is to turn Indian J&K into a model of prosperity and good governance.
And that leaves us with this final, really critical question. In a part of the world that has been defined by military lines and decades of war, is it possible that winning the battle for hearts and minds could actually achieve what conflict never could? In a world of hard borders, can soft power actually redraw the map?